Get ready for massive news. Colby Covington has officially retired from active MMA competition. We break down everything we know about this monumental career shift, including how he quietly left the UFC roster and what this means for the fight world right now. Finally, we wrap up with the latest on Colby Covington's future beyond the cage. We explore his transition into Real American Freestyle, his upcoming bout against Chris Weidman on May 30th, and what this next chapter holds for the polarizing figure known as Chaos. Colby Covington has officially retired from active MMA competition, as he has been quietly removed from the UFC roster. According to MMA Fighting.com, Covington notified the promotion of his decision, leading to his removal from the active roster and subsequent flagging by UFC Roster Watch on X Twitter. As of the report, Covington has not yet made any public statements regarding his retirement. Covington, the 38-year-old former interim Ultimate Fighting Championship welterweight champion, leaves behind a notable legacy in the division. Entering the UFC in 2014, Covington quickly became known for his pressure wrestling. He established himself by securing 7 consecutive wins, including victories over Demian Maia, Dong Hyun Kim, and Rafael dos Anjos, which ultimately earned him the interim welterweight title. However, injuries prevented him from unifying the belt, and he was later stripped of the title. This set the stage for his highly publicized rivalry with Kamaru Usman, which included a significant fight at UFC 245, where Covington suffered a 5th-round stoppage loss, followed by another loss in their rematch. Covington also competed against Jorge Masvidal at UFC 272 before facing Leon Edwards for a final title opportunity, which ended in a loss. His final MMA bout was against Joaquin Buckley at UFC Tampa, where he lost via doctor stoppage. Covington exits the UFC with a record of 12 wins and 5 losses and multiple championship appearances. Despite this conclusion to his time in the UFC, Covington remains active in combat sports, having transitioned heavily into Real American Freestyle, where he has defeated fighters such as Luke Rockhold and Dylan Dannies. He is also scheduled to face former UFC middleweight champion Chris Weidman on May 30, 2026. While his UFC career has concluded, his involvement in combat sports is set to continue. Colby Covington has officially retired from the UFC. On Monday, UFC officials updated his status on the promotion's official website from active to retired, a change initially tracked by the algorithm-based X account, UFC Roster Tracker. The 38-year-old fighter concluded a 17-fight career in the UFC, securing several notable victories against opponents such as Rafael dos Anjos, Robbie Lawler, Tyron Woodley, and Jorge Masvidal. Covington finished his run with a record of 12 wins and 5 losses, and he held interim welterweight gold. However, he never captured the UFC undisputed title, going 0-3 when challenging Kamaru Usman twice and Leon Edwards once. In recent years, Covington had been largely inactive, having only fought once since December 2023, although he has competed in wrestling twice for RAF. His next scheduled bout is a wrestling match against Chris Weidman on May 30 at RAF 9 in Arlington, Texas. Covington has long been a polarizing figure in the MMA world, known for his outspoken persona. He was notable for being among the first MMA fighters to openly align with President Donald Trump and fully embrace a MAGA identity. Furthermore, Covington had expressed frustration regarding fight offers in recent months and took offense at his omission from the upcoming UFC Freedom 250 event scheduled for June 14 at the White House in Washington. Covington has not yet offered any public comments regarding his retirement. Former interim welterweight champion Colby Covington has announced his retirement from the UFC. Sources have confirmed that Covington has informed the organization of his decision to hang up his gloves. Covington's final bout in the UFC was a TKO loss to Joaquin Buckley in December 2024. This retirement marks the end of a two-fight losing streak, following a unanimous decision loss to Leon Edwards in a welterweight title bout in December 2023. His last victory in the UFC came against Jorge Masvidal at UFC 272 in March 2022. Covington had pursued the welterweight championship title 3 times throughout his career, ultimately falling to Kamaru Usman twice and Leon Edwards once. He recently expressed disappointment regarding his absence from the UFC Freedom 250 card, scheduled for June 14 at the White House. In the interim, Covington has been competing in the freestyle wrestling promotion Real American Freestyle, with his next scheduled fight set for May 30 against Chris Weidman. Covington will retire with an overall MMA record of 17 wins and 5 losses. Former interim welterweight champion Colby Covington has announced his retirement from the UFC. Sources have informed MMA Fighting's Guilherme Cruz of the news. Covington's final bout in the UFC was a TKO loss to Joaquin Buckley in December 2024. This decision marks the end of a 2-fight losing streak, following a unanimous decision loss to Leon Edwards in a welterweight title fight in December 2023. His last victory in the organization came against Jorge Masvidal at UFC 272 in March 2022. Prior to his retirement announcement, Covington had expressed disappointment earlier this year regarding his absence from the UFC Freedom 250 card, scheduled for June 14 at the White House. The 38-year-old is currently competing in the freestyle wrestling promotion Real American Freestyle, with a scheduled fight against Chris Weidman on May 30. Covington's pursuit of the UFC welterweight championship was unsuccessful, as he lost 3 attempts, falling to Kamaru Usman twice and Leon Edwards once. Covington will retire with an overall MMA record of 17 wins and 5 losses.